Well, good morning. Hey, so glad y'all are with us. If we've never met, my name is Whit. Thanks for starting your weekend, your Sunday with us. If you haven't been here, this is the perfect Sunday to show up. Here's why. We're about to do something different. This morning, we're starting a new conversation called Season on the Mount. And we're going to study the Sermon on the Mount, which is Matthew chapters 5, 6, and 7. And you can read it. I timed myself this week. You can read it in about 13 to 15 minutes. And I'm like, I needed some help with reading growing up. So like, I can read it within 13 to 15 minutes. But Jesus makes all kinds of points within this sermon. And so we've decided that we're going to spend a season on the Sermon on the Mount. And so we're going to spend the next 13 weeks on this. And if you're wondering about what in the world, 13 weeks, like when is that? Well, the weekend after Thanksgiving, we're going to wrap this conversation up. So if you don't like conversations, just let's take it 1 week at a time. And I'm a little bit nervous this morning too, because if this doesn't go well, we got 12 more weeks of this. And if you don't like the start of this, here's the good news. This is not my sermon. This is Jesus' sermon. So you need to know that. So you should come back next week. If I don't do well relaying it, just give me another shot next week, because just read the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5, 6, and 7. That's what we want you to do. We're so serious about this. We got you a bookmark. It has your weekly reading. So this week is week 1. So over the next 7 days, we're giving you 7 days to read 12 verses. So I think it's possible. We're so serious about this sermon. We think it's the greatest sermon ever, that we've got a little QR code that you can scan. That QR code, you're going to find discussion questions. You can go deeper in this conversation about the Sermon on the Mount. So we wanted you to have one of those. And then I just want to tell you this, like this sermon is going to make you, this 13 weeks, they're going to make you so uncomfy. So just be prepared for that. Like these points that Jesus makes over these 3 chapters in the next 13 weeks, they're countercultural. It's going to make you so uncomfortable. It makes me so uncomfortable. And maybe there'll be certain weeks that hit a little bit harder. But I'm excited about it. Today, as I mentioned, we're going to start with the first 12 verses in Matthew chapter 5. We'll get there in just a minute. But if you're like into titles, the title of today's talk and sermon, installment number 1, would be this: #blessed. Like, I don't know if you've ever used #blessed, but that's what we're going to talk about today. And if you're like, #blessed, I don't even understand it, I don't do social media. The appropriate use of a #blessed would be like this afternoon. I'm going to go home after this. Actually, after the church is out, we're going to do homegrown, and then we're going to go to a soccer game. And then about 2:10 p.m., I'm going to be laying on my couch watching the Bears. And then I'm going to watch the Cowboys. And at that point, I might think about posting a picture of me and the Cowboys with the #blessed. And I don't know, for you, it might look a little bit different. Like like you may be at Casa Del Mar after this sermon, and you may have chips and queso because it's Sunday, and you may take a picture of #blessed. I don't know if that's what it looks like for you. Or it might be like, you maybe golfers, maybe you just got a new driver, like it's the end of the season. There are sales going on. Ladies, there are sales going on. You can get it cheaper if you get a new driver. You may #blessed. Or maybe, like, I got a new grill, #blessed. The Illini won last night. They beat Kansas. My brother-in-law, #blessed, buddy. Like, it's a moment of excitement and entertainment and comfort. #blessed. Or you went on a family vacation and you took a picture. Like, moms, this is for you. You took a selfie with your family, and the sand at Myrtle Beach will just hit different. #blessed. Like, this is I don't know what it looks like to you, but this is what Americans, this is what we tend to do. And really, in regard to the defining hashtag blessed, I would say it's something about a description to define like a moment of entertainment, a moment of excitement, a moment of comfort. This morning, Jesus is going to redefine it. Just to jump right in, to define it in Jesus' terms, blessed would be something like this. It would be to be spiritually prosperous, to possess a joy that's unfazed by pain and change that comes with life. Knowing God's plans have and will come to pass. Like that's according to Jesus, that's hashtag blessed. And so what we're going to do this morning is we're going to read a little passage that a lot of people call the Beatitudes. And it's like supreme blessings. And Jesus is about to use the word blessed the 8 or 9 times here. And so you need to know, blessed are fill in the blank. We're going to read it in just a second. And these are supreme blessings. This is like a lot of blessings at once. And this is a lot of attitudes at once. This is a lot of, okay, I got it. We're good. But here's what you need to know is there's 8 or 9 of these coming. And it is not like a choose one attitude or one blessing and move on. Like this is like, I don't know if you shop at like Costco, but if you want like one bottle of water, you got to buy 8 or 12 or 24. And like, but I want one. These blessings that Jesus is going to lay out in front of us this morning, like this is like, you might want one, but this is all 8. You got to take them all. Like you want one, you're going to take 8. And if you can think about it in a different way, like the truest way Jesus would have been saying this as we read, blessed are, the truest way you can think through it is if Jesus would say, happy are those who fill in the blank. So just a little preface as we get started. We're going to be in Matthew chapter 5. I'm going to read verses 1 to 12 with you this morning. So verses 1 and 2 say this. Now when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him, and he began to teach them. Now that's already countercultural. Jesus decides to teach. He sits down. He sits down. I think this is for a guy like me, this is a bad approach. But for Jesus, he knew, like, okay, I'm gonna sit down, and what the disciples did, they stood up. And when a rabbi would begin to teach, they would sit down, and students would stand up. And they would do that for a couple different reasons. One, honestly, I researched this week, so they wouldn't fall asleep. 2, because you respect the teacher. So I'm gonna go ahead and hop up before it gets any weirder. But Jesus sat down. They stood up. Jesus, if you think about Jesus, he's talking to a crowd here. What a tough approach. I think for me, a guy like me, that's a bad approach. I want your attention. I'm going to sit down. No, stand up. Andrew, keep my microphone loud. Jesus sits down. And it's a way for Jesus to say, hey, disciples, if you're all in, you got to lean in. Like, you got to come here. It's a little different. It's a little bit like this. Andrew, I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but I'm going to turn off my mic. All right, hey. Jesus said, hey, come here. I'm going to sit down. You stand up. You lean in, and you can please be seated so it doesn't get weird. Jesus says, blessed or blessed or happy are those that are poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. A couple of years ago, we had a daughter, Evie, wanted to go to Disney World, and we're like, we're too poor to go to Disney World. And Papa said, I will get you into the magic kingdom, Evie. You think about your relationship with God. Like, if you want into the eternal kingdom, Like, you're going to have to accept the payment. Blessed, we're poor in spirit. Like, we're no good. It ain't because of me. I'm not him. It's because of what he's done for me. Like, I'm in so much debt. There's no chance I'm good with God but through Jesus. He's the way. If you're poor in spirit, this is so countercultural, because in the background, I don't know if they were sitting down or standing up, there would have been some Pharisees, and they would have been thinking, oh, I'm not poor in spirit. This is all on me. We earn our way in. And then to the disciples who were leaning in, Jesus is saying, blessed are those who are poor in spirit. Like, I'm going to be your only way into an eternal kingdom. Verse 4, he says, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. And I don't know, like, if Cubs fans, Cardinal fans, like, we're at the point of the season where we're looking for some comfort. And I know growing up as a Cubs fan, anytime, like, if you're a Cubs fan, Cardinal fan, your friends aren't going to tell you this. I'm going to throw us under the bus real quick. We all have a backup team. We all have like somebody else or something else we tune into. Growing up, I'm a Cubs fan. I'm a Cubs fan until it got to August and September, sometimes May. And then I would turn it from WGN to TBS. That's where the Braves played. That I knew, like, oh, I'm in mourning. I got to turn to the Braves now. And so the second half of the school year, or the second half of the season, I would always be like, hey, I'm a Braves fan. My friends said, no, you're not. Or yesterday, we're Michigan fans, and then we were in mourning, and we had to turn it off. Just turn it off. We weren't laughing, Chad. When you're in mourning, Jesus said, oh, you're mourning. You've gone through a loss. You're grieving something. There's comfort in me. Psalm 34:18 says, God is close to the brokenhearted. And then he says, blessed, oh, so happy are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. And meek, and I know I'm not very bright, and I'm into rhymes, and I know this. Meek rhymes with weak. And when we hear meek, it's like, nah, that's weakness. And no. Meekness is strength under control. This is different. That Jesus, this is really different to think through. Jesus was the meekest man to ever live. It's Philippians 5 and 6 talk about, he did not, although he was God in the bod, although he was the Son of God, he did not use who he was to his advantage. He looked out for the interest of others. That meek ain't weak. That blessed are those who are meek. And if you're a guy and you read this, you're like, oh, now Jesus is cussing at us. Like, meek? No, meek is not weak. And honestly, like, soldiers in this time when this was written, they would use a little word called preus to describe the original word that they would have used that would represent meek would be preus. And soldiers, they used to preus on wild stallions, that they would find wild stallions that were like untamed animals, and they would tame them, and they would train them, and then they would use their strength to come under their control and their authority. They were able to train wild stallions to submit to them. And then these soldiers would use this wild stallion, these stallions, their strength to serve others. Men, if you don't like meek, let me frame it a different way. You were once a wild stallion. Now you're back. You're just a bit domesticated. You're now, you got all kinds of strength. Now you're under the control, and now you're here to serve Jesus. This is different. This is strength under control. Last night, Evie pulled a prank on me, our little daughter, and she hit me like what the WWE would say in the midsection. And it was a moment for me of, oh, I could let you have it with a clothesline right now. But no, it's meek. It's choosing to opt for strength under control. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Verse 6, Jesus says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. You ever like hunger and thirst for the wrong things and it doesn't quench it? You ever, I don't know if you're ever thirsty, or maybe you've ever been in the ocean and you're thirsty and you've thought about drinking the salt water just for a split second, and momentarily it's like, oh, this is better. And then it's like, oh no, I'm unfulfilled. I'm even more thirsty. Jesus is saying, blessed are those who are after righteousness. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. A different way to think about it, like if you're off track, and you're like, I'm looking for fulfillment. A few weeks ago, we pulled a fish out of a fishbowl for just a few seconds, and we put him back in, and he lived for a while after that. But when he was out, I've been thinking about this differently, you're living your life like a fish out of water. Like if I would have taken that fish home and just said, oh, you got to see my truck, man. You got to hang outside the water. You've got to see my house. You're going to love hanging out with Amber and I. It's so great. You got to see Charles. We got a castle here. Goldfish, you got to check this out. Well, there's all kinds of stuff out. You got to see this. At some point in the day, that fish, if he could talk, would be like, I need water. In your life, you're chasing, I'm chasing football, I'm chasing Sunday ticket, I'm chasing a new vehicle, I'm chasing social status, I'm chasing a relationship, I'm chasing notoriety, and you're getting it and you're receiving it, and I'm only more thirsty and hungry, I'm unfulfilled. And Jesus is saying, hey, this is countercultural. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Verse 7, Jesus says, blessed, oh so happy are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. And we talked about mercy last week, that mercy is it's when you could punish someone, but instead you extend compassion. That's mercy. You got a kid right now, you're like, oh, last night I had to use a little bit of mercy with Evie. I'd like to opt for punishment, but we're going to display a little compassion here. If you're unmerciful, you're hypocritical. If you're following Jesus, it's like, I love the mercy Jesus gives me, but I don't play mercy. Well, welcome to the hypocrite club. That Jesus says, blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, verse 8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. I've got daily contacts. Don't tell my optometrist, but I try to stretch those dailies into 3 or 4 days. And by the 3rd or 4th days, I ain't seeing straight. Sometimes, maybe I know I can do this. I try to stretch my time without God. I skip Monday. And you stretch it a few days. No, you're not seeing straight. Jesus says, blessed are those with a pure heart, for they will see God. Verse 9 says, blessed are the peacemakers. Happy are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. And a peacekeeper, there's a major difference between a peacekeeper and a peacemaker. A peacekeeper is someone that will compromise the truth to avoid conflict. Maybe you're like, I'm a peacemaker. Now you might be a peacekeeper. You got some sort of truth you're compromising right now because you're like, I just don't want the conflict. And I'm going to tell you, as a guy that's a bit of a people pleaser, and somebody's like, I don't want to have that conversation. If you opt to be a peacekeeper, you just get to live with the war within yourself. So you don't be a peacekeeper. You need to be a peacemaker, that you need to do confrontation, that you need to address conflict for the sake of Christ. As Jesus says, blessed, happy are those that are peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Verses 10 and 12, Jesus needed extra verses to elaborate on this. Blessed or happy are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Verse 11, blessed and happy are you when people insult you, persecute you and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me, rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets, they killed some of them, who were before you. And Jesus is saying, blessed, whatever we got to be committed to Christ. Happy are those. These are the Beatitudes. They're supreme blessings. This is spiritual prosperity. This is whatever comes your way temporarily. None of this isn't momentary excitement, entertainment. This is joy no matter what comes our way. So I just want to tell you just 2 quick observations I want to tell you about blessed. Number 1 would be this. The Beatitudes, the supreme blessings, the Beatitudes impact your attitude. Like this is like, these are the attitudes you need to be. You need to display this. This should impact your attitude. And if we're going to receive this, if we're going to be blessed, we've got to align our heart with His. Like we've got to have that same heart if we want to receive this kind of blessing. A few years ago, maybe if you're struggling with like an attitude issue right now, I just want to remind you, like you need to be these attitudes. A few years ago, I had a vehicle. It was snowy. It was icy. I was going probably a little bit too quick. I hit the brakes on the ice. Don't tell Amber, but I ran into, because I'm always on her about these things, and then I don't tell her when I do it. I hit this curb. And it was like momentary boom. And for about 12 months after that, my tires were misaligned. Like I took a hit to my vehicle, and then from that point on, my tires for about 12 months wanted to take me toward trouble. I got hit. And for about 12 months, my tires were off center. And it wasn't until I got to realign my tires that I can get back in line. Maybe you've taken a hit in life. And your attitude won't be attitudes. No blessings. No. You took some sort of hit. And you got off track, and your heart has led you into a place of trouble. I just want to tell you this morning, you need an alignment. You need to realign your heart. You need to get your heart set back with His. You need to recognize that these Beatitudes, these supreme blessings also come with attitudes for me to be. Psalm 119:10 says this, I seek you with all my heart. Do not let me stray from your commands. We need an alignment. There's maybe some area in your life where trouble has found you and you're like, I don't want to do mercy. You need to align your heart with His. Meek, come on. You need to align your heart with His. I don't know where it's at, but you need to think, this is, and here's how it works for me. It's like this week, I got mercy. It's almost like a revolving door. Like I got mercy, but next week, it's like, I don't want to do mercy. Align your heart with His. If you're in a negative space spiritually this morning, Philippians 4:8 says, now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. The Beatitudes, it impacts my attitude. I need to do some realigning this morning with where life has hit me. So you need to get your heart aligned with His. And the second thing I want to tell you is that the Beatitudes require action. My relationship with Christ, it motivates me to do what's right. Several years ago, before we had kids, don't tell any police officer friends, but I struggled to obey the law of the school zone speed limit. I didn't have kids in school. I would fly through there and be like, there's a school. What? There's kids in school today? Like at 20 miles an hour. Like, we got to get to mom's house. Like, I struggled to obey the law. I struggled to come under and recognize the rules of authority. But over the past 13 years, over the past 8 or so years, I guess, we've had relationship with kids in those schools. And now all of a sudden, I don't need the rules to remind me. I got relationships in there that inspire me to action. I don't need, the rule, the law. No. I have relationships that motivate me to slow it down. And as a dad, and if you don't have kids, slow it down. Come on. My relationship with Jesus in the Old Testament, the rules, it wasn't enough motivation. The law wasn't enough. We needed love. We needed relationship. If you're thinking, I don't want to do mercy. I don't want to do right. I don't want to do purity. I don't want to do mercy, meekness. I don't want to, when I mourn, I want to handle it differently. No, it's our relationship is what motivates us to do what's right. And these Beatitudes, these blessings that Jesus, these spiritual, eternal blessings that Jesus has brought to the table for us, it should, our relationship with Him, it should inspire us to do what's right. That Paul says in 2 Corinthians 5, 14 and 15, for Christ's love compels us, because we are convinced that one died for all, and therefore all died. And He died for all, that those who live should no longer live for themselves, but for Him who died for them and was raised again. These blessings, this is what I can tell you, is these blessings, it's going to require us to think about the way our attitude is. We got to align our heart with His. And I'm going to tell you this, that these blessings, it's going to require some action. I know for me that I'm motivated to do what's right based on my relationship with Jesus. So we need to walk closely with Jesus. And above all, I would tell you this, these blessings, this whole thing is about what Jesus has done for us. This is, you want to redefine hashtag blessed, it's all about what Jesus has done for us. That I don't know where you're at today, but there's on your best day or your worst day, you have an opportunity to be a child of God. You cannot earn your way into heaven on your own. We're blessed because Jesus, Son of God, showed up. He went meek to show up, to extend a blessing to us, to pave our way into the eternal kingdom. We are so poor in spirit. We're not good enough to get to God on our own. That the ultimate hashtag blessing would be that Jesus showed up on your behalf. You're so far in debt and there's nothing you can do. You're actually nothing but debt. I'm nothing but debt. Is that there's no way we could put ourselves and pay our way into or earn our way into a relationship with God or in a good space or place with God. And here's the good news is God knew it before you knew it. That He sent His one and only for us. I love this. Galatians 2:21 says this. Paul says, I do not treat the grace of God as meaningless, for if keeping the law could make us right with God, then there was no need for Christ to die. If you're playing this game of Jesus plus a little bit of something for me equals everything, stop playing. The ultimate blessing was that God sent His one and only Son for you, that it was Jesus plus nothing equals everything for you. That equals blessed. I can think about it in my way. If I have one son, and if there was a way that if you had to be right with me, and Mason would be my last option to make things right. And I'm going to be honest, if I would give you Mason and say, okay, we're good. Let's give you my son. We'll just call it even. We're good from here. And you'd be like, but here's a little something for me. I'm so offended. I was like, no, this is all about Jesus and the blessing. This is what Jesus means to us. And I don't know where you're at today, but if you need to receive this blessing, this beatitude, that Jesus, you're poor in spirit, like Jesus is the key to an eternal kingdom. And I want to extend an invitation to you this morning as we start this series. Like, have you said yes to Jesus? Because the next 12 weeks coming, he's talking to Jesus followers. And so this is a great place and a great question and a great time to ask. Have you said yes to Jesus? Have you surrendered? Have you said, I'm all in from here. I'm leaning in the next 12 weeks. And if you find yourself in a place, I'm trying to earn my way in. Stop. Surrender and accept the blessing that Jesus showed up to make you right, to clear your slate, to cancel your wrong. He raised from the dead. He paid up for your sin. You have to decide this morning, are you going to accept a hand up? If that's where you're at this morning, I would love for you to pray this with me. God, thank you so much for sending your everything. Thank you so much for extending a blessing to us, an eternal blessing. I'm asking God today, I'm leaning into your payment of my sin. I'm asking, God, that you would forgive me. I'm asking that you would step into my heart. I'm asking that you would make me brand new. I'm declaring you as my Lord and Savior today. God, I'm recognizing that there's nothing I can do to get right with you except to accept what you've sent me, what you've done for me. God, I'm asking for every follower in the room that we would lean into these blessings, that we would be reminded of who you are and what you bring to the table this week. I'm asking throughout this study that you just be with us, that your word would speak loud and clear, that I wouldn't fog this thing up, that you would make it loud and clear, and that you'd make a move in the life of our church. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you so much for watching. We meet in person every Sunday at 9 and 10:30 a.m. and would love for you to join us. If you would like to get to know more about Home Church, we've linked our website in the description below. See you next time.